All right. If you could state your name and tell us about your time at ESU.
Okay, my name is Dale E. Cushenberry, and I was a student here at Emporia from 1966 to 1970. I've been back a couple times, got a master's degree in counseling and then another degree in school administration. My time here at Emporia, well, first of all, I got here by accident. I was going to Kentucky State. I was on a basketball scholarship and a baseball scholarship, and playing for the most famous black coach ever, Johnny McClendon. At semester, they were supposed to give me $1,600 for my baseball scholarship, and they told me a semester they weren't going to be able to do it, and so I left the school. I was in Topeka, and a friend said, "I'm going to a party in Emporia." And I said, "Where is Emporia?" Anyway, I went, and after I got here, I met a lot of wonderful people, and decided to ask the coach if I could try out for the basketball team. And finally, he allowed me to try out. First year I wasn't on scholarship. Had a work-study job, swept the floor at Vic's restaurant, and the rest of the story is ultimately made All-American and so on and so forth. My jersey's retired in white auditorium. What I found about Emporia is I made a lot of wonderful contacts. There are a lot of wonderful people. And in a period in time where people tend to put qualifications on relationships, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're Muslim or whatever, in Emporia, there's such a unique tapestry here. And a lot of the people that helped us make it through were not black. Townspeople, Lee Barron at the Recreation Center, and so on and so forth. And they were just wonderful people. Johnny Walls and the Terrys, and you can go on and on. But it wasn't truly a community. Now, we had a lot of fun. There were a lot of parties. Emporia was known as the party capital then. Anytime we had homecoming, anytime there was the Emporia relays, this place was just impacted. And all the students, well, I should say many students from KU, K-State, and all around centered on Emporia. So on Saturday morning in the gym, it was like a who's who basketball. You know, we'd have JoJo White and the guys from KU and the guys from K-State. People's gym would just be packed watching us play basketball. The Emporia Relays was the bomb. And to make the party circuit, you start with the Texas Relays, Emporia Relays, the KU Relays, and the Drake Relays. And you just follow that cycle. And so, as a student here, we got a top-notch education, and the people cared about you. And I can remember floundering in terms of what degree I wanted. And I had the opportunity to work for Lee Barron at the Recreation Department. And I was having so much fun over William Allen White School in the summertime, programming activity for kids. I asked my advisor at the time, Dr. Waters, well, actually wasn't my advisor, but kind of like an advisor. I said, what could I do that would allow me to work with kids and get paid? He said, you should teach. Well, I said, I haven't really applied myself the way that I should. I don't think I'd make a very good teacher. He said, on the contrary, because you know what it was to kind of struggle, you'll be better at helping other kids go through the same. And so I got in the field of education, never looked back, and retired in education as a high school principal. But, I would just say to anybody, Emporia, the slogan is, you can get there from here. And I don't care where you go, KU, K-State, Michigan, wherever, you won't find a better education that will transfer out into life than you'll have here at Emporia State.
Okay. Well, it was mentioned earlier that you were an actor. Do you want to talk to us about that?
No, I'm not really an actor. I was fortunate to be in 2 movies. And one was called The Death Before Dawn, featuring Cheryl Ladd and Parker Stevenson. And if you rent the movie or whatever, you can see me in there playing the role of a principal and some other things. The setting was Cheryl and her husband had gotten a divorce, and he had hired a hitman to take her out. And so the hitman was parked across the street from the school, and my role at the door as I greeted the kids to come in and waved to her, and then kind of glanced over and saw the hitman and kind of went in. And then there were other scenes, Nutcracker Suite and so forth. What I found about actresses like Cheryl Ladd, and I think they call them actors now, they don't call them actresses, but actors, she was so gracious, and she didn't hide in her trailer. She was out talking with the kids, eating pizza with us, and it was just a great experience. The other movie, called Making of an Icon, was by a French film producer named Fabrice, and it was about the Barbara John story, who was an African-American civil rights person. And so I had a forward and a interview in that particular film. So I'm not exactly a movie star, but I have had an opportunity to be in some parts of a couple movies.
Still really cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
So any other fun or interesting stories that you can think of about not just ESU in particular, but maybe even the community around that you can think of?
Yeah, this community has gone through a lot of changes throughout the years. And I can recall a situation where one of the students here, who's a close friend of mine, Roy Abbott, was working with some Hispanic kids down on South Street. And he had a football program, and he found that these kids were really good. But one of the kids said that for whatever reason, they weren't allowed to play football at Emporia High School. Of course, Roy made it his personal mission, went to the board, and so on and so forth. And I think, I said all that to say this, that part of your participation as a student goes beyond just the classrooms. You need to participate in your communities, and you need a sense of activism, because if you look at the political landscape now, there's a lot of zigging and zagging, and we need for the young people to step up and make this thing move at the speed of truth instead of the things that we're having going on now. So I said that being here on campus was one thing, but there were so many things that we did out in the community, working with the churches, working with the youth, whether it's at the rec department. I can remember as a player on game day, I lived on 1009 Sylvan, and we would walk to White Auditorium, and sometimes we would go down Commercial, and as we would walk, there would literally be kids following us to White Auditorium, and I would always let 5, 6, 7, 8 of them in the side door, which I wasn't supposed to do, but these little kids followed us, they looked up to us, and I hear from those kids even today. You know, they're grown, they're business people, and you'll be in the oddest places in airports, and someone will come and say, Dale Christianberry. I said, yeah. Where do you stay? Well, I was so-and-so, so-and-so. I was a student at the high school or elementary school or middle school, and you remember you used to let us in the games, and now I'm this or that. So a lot of connectivity, and if you come just to be a student, then you've missed really a lot of the quintessential parts of what a real rounded education is about.
Really interesting. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I really look forward to coming back on campus. It's kind of reach out and touch the stone situation, just get synergy from being back on campus, and to know that there was a lot of people here that believed in you, even at times where you weren't as sure yourself. And it was a very supportive community, and like all communities, they have some parts of it that had to be worked through, but that's everywhere. But the bottom line is, it's a very supportive community, and I would encourage anybody who's interested in going to school to seek out Emporia State University as an option.
Okay.